The Iranian Foreign Ministry says this is, quote, economic terrorism. And Iran's president saying that it has won the war and the world sees it. Here with us now to break this all down is Foundation for Defenses of Democracy's executive director and former U.S. Treasury terror finance analyst, Jonathan Schanzer. Jonathan, you might know better than most what this will look like, particularly after the president posted on Truth Social and said this is going to be, quote, the most crushing economic operation ever taken against a country. What does that 1-2 punch, as Besson called it a moment ago, actually look like? We don't have the full details, especially after we already have sanctions in place, that those have embargo on almost all Iranian goods. That blockade is in place that is blocking most of Iran's oil from getting out.
Well, look, I think a couple of things to note. Number one, we already have pretty significant financial pressure on the regime. We voided out something like 40% of Iran's GDP just from the war itself and the damage caused by the bombing, not to mention the sanctions that we already have in place. Look, there's always opportunity to ratchet up additional pressure. But I got to say, I'm not sure we're going to get much more out of it. What I can say, though, is that we are already starting to see signs that this campaign has been working before we even implement this D-Day project. We are now seeing some top officials from the regime saying that they cannot continue to fight this war against the United States because of the economic toll. We're hearing right now that the regime is allowing more ships to transit the Strait of Hormuz because of the blockade, because of the pressure that we're putting on the regime right now. So you get a sense right now that the regime is buckling even before we put on these new measures. I'll be interested to see whether that can hasten the progress that we're already seeing. But I got to tell you, if I'm the regime right now and I'm looking at its long-term prospects, I'm thinking I got to get out of this because it's only going to get worse. And I think Donald Trump's right to double down on that pressure.
To that point, then, if you had to estimate, how long do you think Iran could last? Given that they are feeling that economic pressure, that country more broadly. You look at food inflation, that rose 128% compared to last year. There's video of gas lines around the country going on for quite some distance. At the same time, though, we are feeling the economic pain here as well. You look at gas prices in the U.S., they're over $4 a gallon. And there is some concern that can Iran outlast the U.S., given that they've been used to sanctions in one form or another for decades?
Well, they have grown accustomed to it. And I think that is one thing to understand here. I mean, theoretically, this regime should have collapsed already, given the sheer amount of pressure that we've put on them economically, not to mention the fact that we've destroyed their Air Force, their Navy, we've taken out their supreme leader, we've taken out command and control centers. I mean, this government is a basket case. It doesn't look so different from North Korea as I see it right now. Their currency has zero purchasing power, and the people of Iran are clearly starting to run out of patience if they haven't run out already. In fact, I actually believe that that may be our greatest chance of success, is appealing to those people on the ground that they just had it with this saga that the regime has put them through. Economically, they're a mess, and I can just imagine with a little bit of I don't know, encouragement from whether it's Secretary Bessent or Secretary Rubio or the president himself, maybe we can get the people of Iran to start to rise up against that regime. That would bring things to, I think, an end a lot sooner than they have already.
Yeah, we certainly have heard people recommend and suggest that that be the outcome or the end result here. Let me ask you about this. Iranian state media and Iraq's president confirming that Iran allowed Iraqi oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz over the last couple of days. This, as President Trump has said repeatedly, that we have control over the strait. He said this. Take a listen.
We have total control, as you know, of the border. We have total control. If you look at the blockade, we have total control of that entire region having to do with the Strait of Hormuz. And that means well into it, the land areas.
What do you make of this development between Iran and Iraq? And how do you think the U.S. might respond to this move, especially after President Trump threatened that any country that cooperates with Iran is going to face some pretty severe consequences?
Well, let's just not forget here that the president has his own relationship with the government of Iraq, and we're now in the process of trying to work with this regime to kick those Shiite militias that are loyal to Iran. We want to get them out of there. We want to actually void them of all power, and they're working with us. They seem to be at least open to this discussion, and they're making moves in the right direction. The question that I have right now about Iraq is whether they paid the regime in order to leave. If that was the case, then I can't imagine that's going to sit well with the president. But if the Iranians said, fine, you can go through because you're neighbors and we don't have a beef with you, well, that doesn't seem to bother anybody, because that means more oil is going to be brought onto market. It's going to bring down the cost of oil incrementally over time. So I think it really depends on the circumstances. I'm not aware of any toll that's been paid, but it'd be something to watch for.
Yeah, another development to continue to watch around this conflict. Foundation for Defense of Democracy's executive director and former U.S. Treasury terror finance analyst. Thank you so much for being here, Jonathan Schanzer.
Thank you.
Of course. And we're following this. Carmelo Anthony seeking a new trial, but will the text message he sent before he stabbed Austin Metcalf